Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, one and all. It's good to be here and back in the hot seat here at WOR PC Tier 2. Max is going to be joining me this evening. It's good to be back, and it's good to be back alongside you, Max. How are you feeling about tonight?
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be back once again. Of course, you saw me in the second round at Baku, but yeah, Ben, it's good to be back, and yeah, I'm quite excited for this evening. What about you? How are you feeling for tonight, especially on your return since Monaco?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. Unfortunately, had to miss out on a round or two. Just wasn't really lining up, unfortunately. There's a lot of other commitments got in the way, but we're here, and we're here to have a good race. Now, you love it, you know it. Some may hate it, but that's the love of the game. It's round 4 of the mystery season, so we've had a few tracks eliminated from our track pool, and now we head on to round 4. The drivers know what it is, we know what it is. Without further ado, we can reveal that tonight's round is Canada. 2.7 miles, 14 turns, 4.4 kilometers, and 3 DRS zones. What do you make of this track, mate?
Oh, it's one of my personal favourites. I absolutely adore this circuit. It's such a It's such a challenge. I mean, it's a real driver's circuit. I mean there is plenty of straights, especially that back straight leading into the main straight. But still, the corners, even though it's excuse me, majoritively chicanes, it's very much a driver's circuit still. You have to be on the limit. You have to be pushing right up against those walls, especially through sections like 3 and 4, coming out of turn. And then you've got, of course, 9 and 10. And the Walled Champions, of course, the most iconic corners on this circuit. They really are like it really is a driver's circuit. You need to be on that limit. And crucially, we've got to look out for track limits today. They can play a big part, especially in the Grand Prix, not only in qualifying. So, Ben, we should be in for an interesting race, and of course, plenty of overtaking opportunities, contrary to being a street circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, and I pretty much love Canada for the reasons you've mentioned as well. We are going to see the drivers take very close liberties with some of the track limits, I think, here, particularly just staying away from those walls in certain areas. There are a couple of the chicanes where you can afford a little bit of a wobble, but particularly on the exit speed, you're going to take a hit and it's going to be a bit of a struggle to come back from. But one driver who we have to keep an eye on, 33 points ahead of next competitor Leo Lund, it's Luca Rapassa. I've got to say, 2 wins out of 3 races. He's looking like a dominant force this season.
Yeah, he certainly is. I mean, at this stage, you would think it's his championship to lose with that much of an advantage over a race win clear of Leo Lund. And, I mean, if you look at the form he's got, first at Monaco, second at Baku, first again at Mexico. If he carries on this streak of just constant podiums, he could easily wrap this up by around about round 7, round 8 with this consistency. He's been absolutely on it so far this season, has Luca Rapassa, and of course the most consistent driver in the field. And but you still can't count it out just yet. I've said this in Baku, just because someone takes an early advantage in these first 3 or 4 rounds, it could be tracks that go with them. It could be tracks in their favour, the likes of Baku and Monaco. And the final rounds of the season where, or at this mid-stage, should I say, this is where the tracks might start to shift out of their favour. Maybe some of the weaker tracks start to show for Luca Rapassa, but we can only wait and see. But at the minute, with this flying form, Rapassa certainly the man to beat, and especially looking to try and take that championship and in dominant favour, should I say.
Yeah, so Rapassa, he's got a podium every race this season so far. 2 first places and a second, with that other solitary win being stolen away by the Ferrari of Leo Lund out in Baku. You have a couple of other podium sitters. Top A got 2 podiums, second and third in Monaco and Baku respectively, beginning a DNF in Mexico, with Diego Zorzo taking a 3rd place in the first round, and that is going to be Leroy Brown as well, taking a 3rd place out of Mexico. Barring that, though, you don't really have Tony Hitala, who's jumped in as a reserve and got 2nd place in their 1-point scoring finish. You don't really have that same consistency being matched. Now, you make a valid point that it is early days. It is still too early to call a season necessarily. However, we do look to the field as it currently stands, and things are looking up for a certain couple of drivers in particular. We have also had in the past drivers have a very strong form early on, but not necessarily being able to carry that all the way through.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been plenty of times where drivers have had a slight, even in real life F1, where you've seen the likes of Sebastian Vettel, technically Jenson Button as well in that 2009 season with Brawn. The form just sometimes does tend to dip, so it's not all set in stone yet for Rapassa. He does not have one hand on that trophy just yet. But yeah, early days in the season, plenty still to play for, and all it takes is someone to have the same run of form that Rapassa has just had in those opening 3 rounds, and we're back on level terms. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers do still contend with this. Of course, with Rapassa having such a big lead, it also just somewhat, I would say, removes some pressure from him as well. He doesn't have to be as hot out of the blocks. He can somewhat take his time to build into races with that massive advantage. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, Canada here this evening, it can certainly throw this championship on its head. As I say, a real driver's circuit, another street track. All it takes is getting one just bit of understeer, bit of oversteer, and that's you in the wall and potentially out of the race. So for someone like Rapasa, that could be the big unraveling and the start of an unraveling of such a dominant start to the season.
Yeah, I think the key thing here is he's got to keep that consistency up. Even if he doesn't go round for round on those podiums, he still needs to bring in those consistent points to keep that kind of lead intact. Having a whole race win under your belt by round 4 is no easy feat, but one thing we can count on is that the other drivers are going to respond in kind. Sprogis now making his way up to the start line. Let's see exactly what he can do. Making his way to the right side of the course and then swinging the car in just slightly over the curbs. Turns 1 and 2. Jumping all the way down to 3rd gear as they make a swift and quick exit. Limited verticality, but you do have sweepers like this. It's the chicane of turns 3 and 4, ending the 2nd sector in good time with an 18.9. Now, it's turns 6 and 7. Again, another left-right chicane in this case, but it has to peel out nice and wide. Maximise the speed on the exit. Go a little bit narrow, but then you're back out again, hopping over the curbs, so to speak. But it is an invalidation, a little bit too hot there, just coming out of turn 8. And that's going to leave the ball in the court of the others, as you have Rens Thomassen just behind in the Alpine, quickly making their way out of the hairpin at the top of the circuit, all the way down to 3rd, sometimes even 2nd gear, if you really have to slow down. Heading their way, though, now into the Wall of Champions. Absolute speeding bullet, 8th gear, and just got to be so careful of the curbs as well as the edge. Tiniest of taps for Thomassen, but coming up to the line now, it's going to be a 1:08.270. Let's see how the field matches.
Yeah, that's a very strong lap time there from Rens Thomassen. Justin Ertz goes into 2nd place with an 8.9. Leroy Brown into those 8.0s already, the Mercedes driver, with a very strong lap out of the gates. Let's see what championship leader Luca Rapasa can do here in Montreal. Across the line, only good enough for 3rd fastest, a 1:08.4. Laurie Tulkey now up into 2nd place. Who else is close to crossing the line? Keaton Lutt is finishing his lap. Daniel Gottschalk is just in front of him. So where's Daniel going to go? Is he going to beat his teammate? Yes, he is. He's going to beat Rapasa as well. Here comes Lutt to the line. He goes onto the provisional front row, up into 2nd place. Este moves himself up to 4th for 1:08.249. Very close between the likes of Lutt all the way down to Thomassen so far. Marquardt up into 6th. Anybody else coming close to the line? Riyad Sprogis invalidated, of course. And I think that is it for drivers that are super close to the line. But so far, it's Leroy Brown on top, but only just in front of Keaton Lutt. A total of 21 thousandths of a second. But with drivers still on a lap, we certainly could see that time be toppled in these early stages of qualifying.
Alan Telekas up to the line now. It's going to be the 10th finisher. Just has to make it through the Wall of Champions. Rounding it off. And coming up to the line now, 1:08.7. That's going to put them in 9th position. And a lot of the other fields members have not put a time down on those boards. We've got Liam Stevens making his way up and could hopefully break the mold a little bit. Hey, remember they're flying their flag with Sprogis currently sat in the pits, although he's going to be jumping in the pits himself. Tope's not got a time on the boards just yet. They've invalidated, as well as Bieda, who is now heading into the pits. So far, things are looking like 1:08 is the current time, but I could see that dipping into the high 7s with a bit more push.
Yeah, I mean, the track will keep rubbering in as well as each car goes around the circuit, so we'll see the drivers start to get those quicker lap times, start to feel a bit more grip underneath them, and they'll certainly be able to push on forward. But yeah, hopefully we do see some of these drivers into those high 1:07. Diego Zorzo has just joined the lobby, so he's our 20th runner for tonight. But here we are then, some drivers now coming out onto outlaps, such as Rens Thomassen and Leroy Brown. But really, with only half the field really doing laps here in these opening runs of qualifying, it just shows how much the track limits do bite you around here. That even though these are some of the best drivers on this game, only 10 of them so far able to set a lap time and it be competitive. So for the likes of Thomassen, Brown and Lutt, they've done well in the early stages. They've got the pressure off their shoulders for the rest of qualifying. But for the likes of Lieto, Sprogis, Van Rooten as well, they've got a little bit more pressure boiling onto their shoulders. They need to get a lap on the board here, Ben. And if they don't do that by runs, it's lap shootout, and that's when it really starts to get intense.
Yeah, it does get quite intense as things do start to run out of time. We had Leo Lund with the best Sector 1 we've seen of the session, but unfortunately just invalidated throughout Sector 2. So we jump on board with Keanu Leoto, seeing that he's got to make a quick run through this sector, as he might be coming up to a little bit of traffic. 18.9, slightly below the current sector best, about a 10th down, but could make it up in the following section of the course. Sweeping his way again to that inside, but then jumping on the brakes as much as he can. Keeps it in bounds compared to the other runners, so still doing quite well there. Let's see, can he link it up through this final sector? Looking good again, within a 10th of the fastest. Fastest sector being held in Sector 2 by Leroy Brown, 0.503. Let's see how we can make it up to the line here. It's just all the champions as he pumps it up to 8th gear now. Sweeps the car through. Hopper skip. And up through, past the curbing. Missing the wall by inches. And it's going to be a 8.017. He's made it up, and massively, in that third sector. It was on the line before, but that last push is so close to the grey old 107s. We'll see many falls. Leo Lund has just gone and done it. He's made good on his initial run. Leroy Brown's got a 0.9. And all of a sudden, the floodgates are open.
They certainly are. The tide has shifted. We are into those 1:07 sevens. Lund with a brilliant lap time there in the Ferrari. No, he does like a street circuit, of course. Took pole and the race win in Baku. Keaton Lutz has just invalidated at the World Champion chicane. Larry Tulke to the line. He also invalidated at the same chicane, who is a little bit further around the circuit. One of the Red Bulls is, I think, no, it's actually the V-carb, I want to say, of Luca Rapassa. Yes, he crossed the line. Wasn't actually up on the lap time, just aborted that previous attempt. Daniel Gottschalk, he invalidated at the World Champions. Let's have a look at Liam Stevens as he now makes that run to the line, flying the flag for Red Bull, and he goes up into 4th place at 1:08.059. Nicely done from the Red Bull man, Rens Tomasson, who of course was at our provisional session leader at one point, was the first driver to set a lap in qualifying. He's actually aborted and come in to the pit lane. Joel Marquardt in the Papaya McLaren. Let's see what he can do. Nicely done through the World Champion chicane. Currently on an 8.378. Comes across the line. Makes it a 1:08.1. So we're seeing about a 2/10 improvement from a majority of these drivers here. Ben is Danny Van Ruyten now goes up into 3rd place with a 7.9. That's already on a lap old soft compounder tyre. So not losing too much time on with that extra lap of wear. But we're seeing a lot of these drivers improve by about a 10th as now Tope goes top of the times. So the track evolution is kicking in. And if it carries on like this throughout the rest of the session, I would expect some of these drivers to get to the mid 1:07s, potentially at a very much of a push. We could see one driver pull out a lap of all laps and into those low 1:07s at the very end of this session.
Well, combining the best sectors of each, the theoretical best is a 0.713. So it certainly is on the cards. But it's about who can extract that and maybe who's tuned their setup and car for such conditions. But either way, we've got quite a heated battle for the front row. It's 14 milliseconds splitting Top A and JST, the McLaren that has not long jumped into that power play position. We're on with Riyad Sprogis, one of 5 cars still yet to set a time here in this session. 8 minutes to go, and the pressure is going to be mounting because drivers are starting to consistently break into the 107s. This is going to be a bit of a struggle for those who are still in the mid-8s and even those who have not set a time, because you haven't got anything really to fall back on in the same way as the others do. You can't push as hard, but at the same time you need to push that hard to get the time in your pocket. Good timing so far though from Riyad Sprogis. It's an 18.8 and a 21.6 for the first and second sectors, so is roughly on par and on track to get a low 108, but let's see how they handle this final sector. Firing it down to the back straight, heading into the Wall of Champions. We'll see what kind of speeds they can pull and just how much they can test their mettle as well as their approach to the corner. Bit of a wobble, bit of a tank slapper of the rear axle going into the wall, but keeps it clean still. It is enough at least for a P13 with a 108.3.
Yeah, Sprogis will be quite disappointed with that final part of the lap, just that Water Champion chicane, just catching him out ever so slightly. And the car got a little bit wayward from him. Also saw that up at turn 10 as well. The car just really dancing on the rear there, not too dialed in with those rear tyres. So as Leroy Brown is now starting his next attempt, currently in 4th place on a 7.9, up by just under a 10th in the first sector alone. Let's see if he can carry on this trend of improvement. So the Mercedes driver heading through into 9 and 10. Will be braking just as you hit the shadow under the bridge, down to 5th gear, ride that inside curve there at turn 10, then back on the power, use a little bit of battery as you head up into the braking zone at turn 11, braking about 100 meters, get the car down to 3rd gear, fit the inside apex curve, run the car all the way to the outside wall. It does narrow up on the corner exit. So we'll see what he's going to be able to do heading into the World Champion chicane. Arguably the toughest part on the circuit because you've got such a long run down to it, and it's a thread the needle through this chicane over the first curve. But he invalidates at the last moments in the fire in that next run of qualifying. What would this lap have been? It would have been enough for provisional pole. Nearly 2 tenths improved from Leroy Brown, but unfortunately it does not matter. Who next is coming up to the line? I think it's one of the Alpines. Renton Masson has just started his run. Gabor has just gone up into 9th, and there's Keaton Lutz now up into 3rd. A brilliant qualifying here for Williams, a 1st and a 3rd. Let's see what Leo Lund is able to do. He's up by a 10th in the middle sector. That was a lot nicer than we saw Leroy Brown do through the Water Champion chicane. Can it be enough for provisional pole? Yes, he can. A 1:07.719. A brilliant lap time there from Leo Lund. He really does like these street circuits. And once again, goes to the top of the times as Liam Stevens puts himself into 3rd. More drivers coming across the line thick and fast. And still waiting on Tope to start his next attempt as he crosses the line now to head into turn 1.
Yep, and now the timings are really coming down. This is where that millimetric precision is going to really become a deciding factor between drivers' different laps as they're making their way through to the line, setting up their penultimate and some cases final attempt as they're trying to outpace the cadence of the rest of the field. Got a few more cars who are going to be setting up. You've got both of the McLarens making their way. JST, Marquardt, both coming through. We'll jump aboard JST for a moment as he's setting himself up, and he's got quite a bit of pressure ahead of him. Just a 1/4 of a second, and he's jumping up to the top row. That's the difference we're talking here.
Yeah, it's super close between the field, and yeah, it's honestly just super tense. Just that little bit of an improvement can promote you up quite a few places. Tope now coming up to the line. Can it be enough to displace Leo Lund at the top of the timesheets? No, just misses out. And that is by 0.03 of a second. So Tope stays in 2nd place. JSD up by a 10th in the 1st sector, and a little bit of a slide out at turn 10. That's going to cost him ever so slightly, and it has cost him around about 0.02 of a second. Tope, that's him done and dusted for the session. So the best he can start is 2nd place. As JSD now going to be DRS open as we head down the back straight into the World of Champions chicane. Are we going to see the McLaren driver displace Leo Lund, who's on for a good enough improvement for it as he heads into the World of Champions, and just like Leroy Brown, invalidates at the final hurdle. Across the line he comes. Oh, it would have been a 7.6. It would have been good enough. But JSD, once again, another driver being bitten by the vicious World of Champions chicane, and that is another driver we could be seeing at the front of the grid. Unfortunately, losing their lap time, and for JSD, I think that is going to be it for his qualifying session.
Yeah, he's just overcooked it ever so slightly, and that is a bit of a shame because with Tope retiring out, that could have been some real disruption to that front row and really break through that mold a little bit. Lito is going to be next up to the line and is going to be breaking form compared to the field now. I wonder if they're going to go in, but no, they are committed to this last run, and this is going to be their last run. Just going to beat out a good chunk of the traffic. Might even beat out the Kick Sauber on the exit. Yes, they do, so they're not going to have that visual distraction, even with the slipstream turned off. Clean initial running from Lito through the 1st sector. You can see just how much the car has to dip in to that chicane as you're sweeping downhill, simultaneously trying to keep it all gripped up good first sector, 0.810, very close to the whole time of Leo Lund, who has just made their way out for their final lap. Keeps it clean throughout most of the second sector, just barely keeping it together now into sector 3, jumping down onto the brakes into third gear, really scrubbing those tires a little bit as they rotate the car out, peel out wide, jump on the throttle once again, burning a good chunk of the battery, get yourself up into that 8th gear and floor it all the way to the Wall of Champions chicane, where this is just going to be make or break. You've got to fire it in there, hope for the best, hope you've lined it up correctly. Precision is key, precision is achieved, and Litoad with a solid improvement is up into P9 here. So good work from him there, and that is going to be his qualifying session as good as done as far as we are concerned.
Yeah, that is going to be Leo. So, finished in qualifying, be a best of 9th. Leo Lund has aborted his his final attempt, sorry, and we'll just have enough time to go again. Same with Liam Stevens. That's Diego Zorzo moving himself up into 6th place. Nicely done by the other Aston Martin driver. Lutz has invalidated his final attempt, so he will have to back off once more. Leroy Brown up by 2/10 in that first sector. So let's see what the Mercedes driver is able to do. He's on a higher improvement than he was on the lap he would have been for pole position. Can he snatch it away once again, or will the Wall of Champions chicane be again a thorn in the side for Leroy, as he is still up by about 1/10 in that middle sector, sorry. So it'll be DRS open as we head down this back straight. He's got the visual distraction there of the Kick Sauber. I think that's of Daniel Gottschalk, it is, who's unfortunately invalidated in this session. But here comes Brown up to the line. He's got the Wall of Champions chicane a lot nicer this time around. Will it be enough to displace Lund? Yes, it is. So 1:07.694. Marquardt up into 4th. Rapassa goes into 6th place. That's as best as your championship leader can do. Who is next up to the line? It looks like it is going to be Danny Van... sorry, is it Keegan Lund? No, it's Diego Zorzo who's already finished. He's that Gabor goes up into 5th. What's Leo Lund doing? He's up by half a tenth in that middle sector. Could Lund snatch back pole position at the dying embers of this qualifying session? We know the Ferrari driver likes a street circuit. We saw it in Baku. DRS open for Lund. Will it be enough to snatch it away from Brown? Yes, it is. Oh, wow. Leo Lund, when the pressure was on, he saw one of his rivals for pole position improve. He knew he had that one opportunity to do it, and Leo Lund takes pole position here, unless Larry Tulki has anything to say about it. He promotes himself up into the 2nd. A brilliant lap there from Larry Tulki. Nearly snatched it away from Leo Lund. But once again, like we saw in Baku, the Super Swede is back on top, and the Ferrari driver snatches pole position for round 4 here in Canada.
He's turned the wick up and he's fully given it everything. This is what he's capable of, and he wants to prove that tonight and close that gap. They're going to be London Torquay on row 1 with Brown and Toppe on row 2. Marquardt and Van Ruyten is row 3 with Zontos and Stevens, along with Rapassa and JST completing your top 10. Following that, you have Caden Look, Diego Zorzo, Rens Thomassen, Daniel Gottschalk, Keanu Lioto, Ryle Sprogitz, Justin Ert, Valentelekas, Zan Bieda, and the second Haas, which I wasn't able to catch and memorize in time. But we are going to take a quick break, folks. We are going to be jumping to a word from a couple of the great sponsors who are making WOR possible. And while we have that break, we're going to be setting ourselves up for the race. So let us know in the live chat who you want to see out, who is going to be performing today, who you want to see out on top, and maybe some underdogs you want to keep an eye on. Either way, we'll be back after a quick message. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, these are the stakes at play. Lund just absolutely stormed through with an excellent qualifying. And this is going to put him in good stead to make up some of that points gap against Luca Rapassa, who's 33 points ahead. Got a lot to work for here, but certainly has made a good start here in round 4. Lund being in second, closely followed by Tope, who was trailing a little bit. Got a really good lap before retiring out in second, with which was eventually displaced down into 4th. You had Lito in 4th place, with Zorzo closely following behind. So the Astons close together in this championship, and then Leroy Brown along with Renz Thomason, Tony Hitala, JST and Caden Luke rounding out your top 10, with some other points finishers here and there, give or take. Now, I'm very excited for this session that's about to happen, because we've seen Canada's strengths as a circuit. We have seen it as a qualifying masterclass. And now we are going to see it as a race haven. What do you make of it?
It's going to be an amazing race. I mean, of course, plenty of overtaking opportunities around a circuit like Canada into turn 1, the Water Champion chicane, even up into the likes of turn 8, and then you've got the hairpin into turn 11. There's an overtaking opportunity pretty much everywhere on the circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see, especially on that battle on the final lap. What are each driver going to do? Of course, you don't want to be leading onto that final lap. That's the last thing you'll want to do, especially with that run down the back straight. You're going to have to try and back everybody up as much as you possibly can. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Track limits are going to be one of the biggest key talking points of this evening. This track bites, and we saw that in qualifying. It can bite you at any given opportunity. Of course, 3 warnings equals a 3-second time penalty, so we could see plenty of those here this evening. And hopefully not, but we could see the race decided by penalties as well. It's all about being consistent. It's all about keeping the car on the black stuff within those white lines. And that certainly is going to be a key talking point. And also battery management as well. Of course, you've got a really long run down that back straight into the Water Champion chicane. You're going to need the battery for it, especially if you want to go to make a move or even try to defend from the car behind. It's all going to be about battery management, track limit management as well. And then also on the tyres. It may not seem it, but Canada is quite aggressive on its tyres, so I'm expecting a hard, medium, hard strategy here this evening. And it could certainly be a very tasty Grand Prix here, Ben.
It certainly could be something fun. I mean, the big thing here is that they can't actually lean on that strategy because there is no hard tyres.
Hards are not allowed, are they?
So it's going to be a 2-stopper, most likely, unless they really play the tyre conservation game. But it is going to be a wild card that, of course, does change a lot of the strategy up in here. We will see the new lobby being formed, and now, just in a moment, we will be setting off once again. The pressure is certainly on. Drivers are certainly feeling a bit of the strain, and one thing I do want to point out is just across the board. We mentioned briefly Rapassa had consistency, but I want to mention the consistency of the entire field, because we're not seeing many sporadic results. We're seeing drivers who are either consistently placing in points, consistently placing high points, podiums, etc., or drivers who are consistently placing low. We don't have that sort of punching through effect or massive drop down like we have seen in seasons past, which one can argue is both a good and a bad thing. On the one hand, drivers having consistent seasons, it shows that they have the pace, the adaptability, the means to make it work, but at the same time, you want those underdog stories in a way. You want to see those drivers who sort of make their punch-up appearances and really do sort of disrupt the field.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you always want someone that's not been doing so well in the season, who's not really scored too many points, especially at this stage. Maybe kick off a championship challenge. So maybe at this stage, maybe a Joel Marquardt, a Liam Stevens, who haven't done really that great. They've only got 2 points apiece each. So yeah, you want someone who would want to try and fight their way at the top, and then you see them there for a few races in a row, and that really helps their championship push. But it is also great to see drivers that are super consistent. Your likes of Luca Rapassa, Leo Lund as well. But yeah, especially with Rapassa having that second, not finishing below second in the first 3 rounds of the season. He's qualified, I think, 9th here this evening, so it's going to be a bit more of a task for him, but still he can make his way through the field, as we do know. But yeah, it's nice to see drivers having that consistency to win championships, so that they somewhat technically deserve it in some people's eyes. But it is nice to see drivers who haven't had the greatest start to the season, especially in a format like this where it is a mystery track. You don't know what's coming up. You can't practice. You can't really work out your strengths and weaknesses around a specific circuit until you're already in the race. So yeah, it's going to be nice to see if someone who's not scored as many points, maybe a Lari Tulki, who's of course only scored 4 points this season, which have come at Baku. He's on the front row of the grid, so could we see potentially him kickstart his championship challenge, or at least he's climb up the championship with a good result here this evening?
Yeah, I think we could see Larry Torkey really bring a bit of disruption here. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, considering just how strong of a qualifying session he had. And with that second place jump in the last moment, as well as some of his performances around in previous seasons and in other places, one thing that I want to see is I want to see Torkey on his A game. I think he can do it. He really does have the pace when he can lock it in. It's just a case of finding those ideal conditions. And I think he can do it here, but just needs to keep a cool head. He needs to hold his ground in that P2. And even if he drops a couple places, don't panic. Just don't panic and keep moving forward as best as you can. Run your own strategy. Don't get phased by the others. And we will see how he ends up. But I've got hopes for him and a couple of others.
Yeah, I mean, if Tulki on his day is a very, very strong driver, he is someone who could certainly throw his own punches at the top of the field. So, yeah, keep an eye on Tulki. Just, as you said, keep a level head. He can't get too flustered at the top of the field if, say, something goes a little bit wrong or he has a little bit of contact that might send him down 1 or 2 places. He can't get ruffled. He has to keep his focus on the race, put it past him, and carry on going, fighting for those podium places. But yeah, you got plenty of drivers here this evening who could certainly throw their hand in for a podium at the very least. Maybe even Diego Zorzo, Leroy Brown as well, of course, come off that 3rd place from Mexico last week. There's so many drivers that can certainly disrupt this championship, and maybe even Luca Rapassa here this evening, with him starting in that mid-pack. It certainly could disrupt him if drivers maybe just go a little bit more aggressive. Of course, trying to slash that championship lead down. You will want to keep the championship leader behind you at all means necessary. And even if they just get those elbows out a little bit more against Rapassa, or even against Lund. I know Lund's only still 33 points back from Rapassa, but that's still crucial points you're gaining on someone in front of you in the standings. So there's still plenty of drivers who can certainly make an upset here this evening in Canada. And if it maybe rattles the likes of Rapassa or even Lund, which it probably won't, but it potentially could, that could then start a little bit of a form decline over the next 2 or 3 rounds until they refocus, regroup, and get that form back on track.
Yeah, but when it comes to form decline, it's a slippery slope, and it's often a self-perpetuating cycle. You drop form, so you lose confidence. So you drop more form, so you lose more confidence. And it can very quickly spiral out of control. It's a positive feedback loop you've got to be very careful to avoid. Luckily, after a couple of technical hiccups, we are proud to report that we are now getting into the race session good and proper. We had to wait for a couple of drivers to get in, but now we have everyone, and we are just starting the countdown before we head on to the race course. Now, with mediums and softs being the only compounds available, besides the wets, of course, it is going to change things up, but who do you think is going to be starting on the mediums? Who do you think is going to start on the softs?
I mean, with these strategies, of course, especially if it's going to be a 2-stop, I'm expecting a soft medium, well, with at least a 2-stop with 2 mediums in it. So I'm going to say maybe Tulki will start on the softs. Lund on the mediums, we saw him do that in Baku and it worked out well in his favour. He's really able to take them long, he's really good on the tyres. Is the Scuderia Ferrari driver. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Tulki, who of course hasn't scored many points this season, tries that opposite strategy, goes onto that soft compounded tyre, goes aggressive early on, gets that buffer, and then has to try and just negotiate and negate that deficit later on in the Grand Prix. Leroy Brown could also be a shout to go on to the softs as well. It's just so difficult to call. Different drivers have different strengths, and if they think they're good at managing those tyres, especially potentially those softs, they could see them use them at the start of the Grand Prix, get them out of the way so they can then just go straight in on those next two stints of just hammering in those medium compounded tyres, just going tooth and nail on them and just being able to push every last ounce out of them. So yeah, I'm expecting especially Lund to start on the mediums, and especially Tulki to go on the softs, because someone like Tulki, you've not scored many points. You'll want to start this race strong and somewhat clear the pack and not really be caught up in too many battles at the early stages of the Grand Prix. So Tulki, I definitely think is going to go onto that soft compounded tyre.
Yeah, I think he could use it as a jumping off point as well as a couple of others behind him. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like Top A and maybe even Leroy Brown, one of the Mercedes, to just try and get that early jump and then just run a consistent end, because it's easier to defend than it is to attack. So you could do that early on the softs, catch the rest of the field off guard, and then hold a relatively dominant position, short of anything getting too wild and a bit too crazy. So we'll see what the drivers have in mind, what they have in store, of course. But for now, we're just waiting on final setup, final procedure to go trackside. And here we go. Round 4 of the season 20 of WR. The track is hot once more, and immediately it's going to be fireworks as there is a quick jump out the gate for Leo Lund. Great start from him there. Leroy Brown also following through, immediately putting pressure on Larry Tulki to try and get an early escape. You can see the front four all going onto the soft compounded tyre with only about 5 to 6 on the grid. Rens Thomassen has gone on the hard, so they're going to have to pit immediately to get off those compounds and get back on. Otherwise, they'll be incurring a per lap penalty for every lap that they run on those white walls.
Oh, Rens Thomassen, it's disaster already in this Grand Prix. Going onto the hards is probably just in force of habit. It's just in nature for him to go onto those hard compounded tyres. Joel Marquardt is falling back into the clutches of the soft tyre runners. I say that, Luca Rapassa, the other medium tyre runner, has just got by him, and he's just dropping down the order. And I think I know the reason why. Joel Marquardt with missing front right end plate damage on that right-hand side of the car. And unfortunately for him, that is disaster. Keanu Liato is out of this Grand Prix, and also in contact is Exafox. I think also Daniel Gottschalk as well involved in that, so maybe 3 into 1 does not go, and we've got a virtual safety car in this Grand Prix. This could be a cheap pit stop for some of these drivers, and look at that. Top A from those soft compounded tyres, someone who was quite high up in the order at the start of this Grand Prix. Now on to the mediums. He's made his first pit stop. Keanu Liato, unfortunately for him, his race ended after 11 corners. But let's now look at what the Williams man is going to be able to do. He's, of course, going to have to make another pit stop. But on those medium tyres, he can take them long. And we'll see how this is going to play out for him, as Leo Lund got the dream getaway he would have wanted, as he, of course, still leads the Grand Prix. We're under virtual safety car conditions. Hopefully we'll be back racing very soon with DRS enabled for the first time in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and Lund is going to be reeling from that one, because he's now got Tulki breathing down his neck, having lost the effective advantage that they would have got. But here we go. We're back up to green flag conditions. Racing is back on, and Lund immediately on the defensive. As you can see, he's having to adjust and moderate his line going through the corners. A bit of an attack coming from Danny Van Ruyten on the Mercedes of Leroy Brown as they're both making their way through. That's going to be a quick, frenetic exchange. Van Ruyten, despite being on the mediums, is putting the pressure on and dumping the battery to try and get round into the Wall of Champions. Despite an end plate missing, still holds the line and holds the pressure up high. Meanwhile, you've got those bottom 6 cars who have all sunk an early pit stop and have had a bit of a strategic overhaul. As you said, some of those medium runners can take them long on 2 sets and can potentially negate the time loss. But Thomassen had the hard tyres at the start, so they're not really going to be gaining much of an advantage here because, of course, they did go on the wrong penalty. And they have to suffer the compound because of it. I'm just going to roll with it, that one.
Oh, wow. We love having the wrong the wrong penalty involved in Grand Prix. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a 5-second time penalty to Renster Massen's final race time. And that really could take him out of race-winning contention unless something drastic happens throughout the rest of this Grand Prix. Luca Rapassa has just gone for a move on Gabor up into turn 11. He's not been able to get the move done just yet. Of course, Gabor on those softs will have the better run out to the corner. Laurie Tulki takes the race lead away from Leo Lund, and Rapassa does have to just slot in behind. Gabor in that Alpine is now putting Liam Stevens under some pressure, who just went deep into the Water Champion chicane. Here comes Gabor to the inside. Won't be able to get the move done for now. And look at this. Keegan Lutt now putting Rapassa under pressure. Only a few corners ago, Rapassa was looking to move up into the top 6. And Lutt trying it around the outside, not getting the move done. And JSD, the great opportunist, out of this. And Keegan Lutt put on the grass thanks to SD through turns 3 and 4. And Lutt now falling down the order. Here's Sprogis now to the inside of the Williams man. Is he going to be able to get this move done as we now head through turn 7? A little bit of a slide. It flips the front left of Keegan Lutt, who sends him into a little bit of a slide as well. Laurie Tulki leads the way, but for Keegan Lutt, in the span of only a few corners, he's gone from 8th place down to 11th.
Yeah, it's a rough innings there, but unfortunately, that's sometimes just the way it goes. Zontos in with a deep send. Going a little bit hasty on the brakes there, but just managing to pitch himself up and take the apex away from Liam Stevens, allowing for that retake of the corner. You've meanwhile got Larry Tulki being a quick return to sender from Leo Lund. So now they are going to be returning themselves into the power play position and are going to be currently having a back and forth between the Haas and the Ferrari, and this is where it gets interesting. Van Ruyten is closing in. Despite being a compound down and missing an end plate, they are still managing to keep pace. Although saying that, oh, big slip of the rear, and they just got a 3-second time penalty, so I don't know how well that strategy is panning out for them anymore.
Yeah, Van Ruyten, the first driver to pick up a 3-second time penalty in the Grand Prix, and part of that could be due to that missing end plate, just giving a little bit more understeer, the car being a bit more unstable, and that really can pay the price, especially for the likes of the World Champions. And that turn of 3 and 4 chicane where he did pick up that penalty. Laurie Tulki had a big slide as well out of 3 and 4. Lucky to keep that one out of the wall, maybe just to the rear tyres, overheating, sitting behind Leo Lund. But of course, those soft tyres do degrade very quickly. And now, are we going to see the move from Danny Van Ruyten? Yes, we are. To the inside now of Laurie Tulki as they go for Leo Lund as well. He's looking for it. He lurked to the mirrors of Leo Lund, but wasn't able to get the move done. Into the pit lane comes Liam Stevens, only 4 laps. Same with Justin Ertz. 4 laps on the soft compounded tyres. It is a tyre you want to get rid of quickly in this Grand Prix, and that is why a majority of the field have gone on it early. Get it out the way, go onto the mediums, and try and see what you're going to be able to do. Of course, the 2-stop is going to be in full effect here this evening. Of course, the likes of Toppe and Renster Massen have already made one of those pit stops, and they'll surely be able to take those mediums to the next one and take them to the end of the Grand Prix. Ertz able to get in front of Marquardt out of the pit lane, but further up, Van Ruyten on those mediums, on that better compound at this stage of the Grand Prix, putting the race leader Leo Lund under all sorts of pressure.
Yeah, well, with the VSC and those drivers further down getting a chance to jump onto a new set of tyres early, they have circumnavigated the 2 compound rule while still being able to dodge having to use the softs. Van Ruyten going for the send and going for the charge, heading into the penultimate corners. Wall of Champions now is locked in the position, but can he keep it together? He's going to go uncontested as Van Ruyten is going to have his chasers quickly depart. Lund, Tulki, Zontos all into the pits, 5 laps deep onto the red wall of tyre. Now it's time to see if the medium runners who went since the start are able to hold that pace, as we will now have a tale of 2 medium compounds in terms of tyre life, now playing off of each other and trying to sort of force each other into an overtake.
Yeah, that's what we really are going to see. And look at Liam Stevens' undercut. He boxed a lap earlier. Then the likes of Leo London, Laurie Tolkien has jumped them completely. The undercut seeming super powerful here in Montreal. And that was a brilliant strategic call there from Liam Stevens. I think he was down in about 5th or 6th when he came into the pit lane originally. And he's now in that net race lead. But of course, with Tomasin and Tope making their first pit stop, he is actually, in a net 3rd place. And look at the gap Tope has over the rest of the field. Leroy Brown getting passed by Luca Rapassa. Rios Sprogis has dropped down the order quite substantially behind both Diego Sorzo and Gideon Lutt. There goes Sorzo into the pit lane. Oh, 10-second time penalty. Speeding into the pits for Diego Sorzo, just got a little bit too hot. It is one of the more tricky pit lane entries because you're coming at it at such speed. And unfortunately for Sorzo, he picks up that 10-second time penalty. Liam Stevens and Leo Lund been able to get past Rens Tomasin, and here comes Lund on Stevens, moves himself up into 7th place. And look at that, Liam Stevens on those fresh mediums, fastest lap of the Grand Prix. All he has to do is now is just sit in the wings of that Scuderia Ferrari. But Liam Stevens with a brilliant strategic call so far. And for Tope as well, 3.8 seconds clear. Expect that gap to come down ever so slowly over the next few laps, because those fresh mediums are really going to be on a charge. And around a circuit like this, having 5-lap younger tyres pays absolutely dividends compared to lap time pace.
Yeah, and that dividend is going to be paid nearly immediately. We're just seeing in that small segment 0.3 of a second being chewed away by Lund on his much fresher yellow walls. So that is certainly going to be a gap that continues to drop over the course of the session. Meanwhile, we've got the 2 Alpines, Tomas and Zontos, fighting one another. They're going to side-by-side drag race one another. Looks like Zontos got a little bit more juice in the tank. He's just going to pip of the position, with Liam Stevens now trading back against the Ferrari, all sweeping through the Wall of Champions. A brief contact with it from Zontos. I think just a tiniest scrub of the tyre, so nothing substantial, but still an opportunity for a mistake to creep in there if you're playing it too fast and too loose. So we'll see those top 3. It's Van Ruyten, Rapassa, JST, separated by Leroy Brown and Caden Lute in the soft compounds. A little bit further away, about 2 to 3 seconds for Caden Lute's case. And then Tope is going to lead this group of early pitters. First pit stops under the belt, with 8 seconds between himself and Caden Lute up ahead, though has got a big strategic advantage that will pay off later, should he be able to hold the position on the aging tyre.
He certainly will have that strategic advantage. Here comes Rapassa and SD on Danny Van Ruyten as they move themselves up into the current 1-2 of this Grand Prix. Leroy Brown still staying out that little bit longer, but Keelan Look does come in to the pit lane. And Leroy Brown, he's doing so well on that soft compounded tyres. He's really giving himself a good tyre age delta to the rest of the field. He's not really got too much worse pace than those medium runners in front. They've only really been able to extend due to that DRS that they have had. But unfortunately, he is going to have to come in ever so shortly, because he is now really starting to struggle after I just said about how good his pace was. He really is just crawling around this circuit on this lap. He is struggling for grip at every corner. Tope's gap has come down about 2 seconds in the span of 2 laps. It's now 1.4, 1.3 make that out of turn 8. So for Leo Lund, he's going to be within DRS range ever so shortly. And for Tope, he really is going to have a lot of work on his hands. Does he actually have some front wing damage? He's had a lot of understeer through that chicane. No, he does not. Maybe just those aging tyres starting to get onto his nerves, as there's JST moving himself up into the race lead ahead of Luca Rapassa. But Tope, now with Leo Lund in DRS range, that prancing horse is surely going to gallop his way by within a matter of moments.
Time is of the essence here for Tope. He's got this deficit that he's having to contend with. He's just hoping that the pace will reach an equilibrium. Either that or Lund just cannot get by. Leroy Brown filing into the pits. Tomasen is also pitting in and retiring out from the session. So let's get a bit of insight later about what's going on there. But here comes the Ferrari and so many other cars in tow, as the Williams is now looking like a sitting duck to an extent. With such a deficit, it's going to be hard to overcome that pace delta. But I mean, I look at as well, I do look at Leroy Brown and how much it extended on that stint. As you mentioned, he has got a great tyre gap delta that is going to pay him off later, because he now is on fresh mediums where so many other in the field are at least 4 or 5 laps old.
Yeah, he certainly is, and this really is going to be where Leroy Brown needs to make pay, but with everybody else having DRS, it's going to be extremely difficult to catch up to the back of this pack. He needs to, I mean, he's still then got another 2.5 seconds once he gets past Real Sprogis to then catch up to Larry Tulki on the back of his train, with Leo Lund now getting past Tope to hit the forefront of this train once again. And Tope really starting to struggle on that medium compound of tyre. Liam Stevens got it all wrong for the World Championship again. Here comes Gabor to the inside of the Red Bull, and the Alpine driver able to do that very easily. Tope with a slide out of turn 2 to ST pick up a 3-second time penalty in this Grand Prix. But Gabor now starting to put the Williams under all sorts of pressure, and just look at the advantage Leo Lund has already built over the rest of the field. 1.1 seconds is the gap between him and Tope behind. We saw this in Baku. We saw if he makes that strategy call, he may be slow, stuck behind drivers that come in that little bit earlier, but once he gets into that clean air with that tyre age delta, he can fly off into the distance. And at the minute, it's 1.3 seconds between Tope and Lund, as here comes Gabor with a brilliant send to the inside into turn 11. Same with Laurie Tulki as well versus Liam Stevens. Gabor moves up to 5th. Liam Stevens versus Tulki still raging on in the background. DRS open for the pair of them. They've got to watch out for Tope in front, who's not going to have the DRS heading into the World Championship game. Tope squeezing Tulki to the inside, but a Haas driver late on the brakes, as aggressive as you can get, and he moves himself up into 6th place. But Gabor has actually, with that DRS, been able to bring Leo Lund into his clutches.
Yeah, it's bringing it back into the fold, but at the same time, you have some great attacking and a great aggression coming out early days, and honestly, excellent moves. I'm loving what we're seeing here. We're seeing that right balance of aggression, but not being overzealous to the point where it's going to get you in trouble. And this is what we want to see out on the course. We want to see the drivers pushing the limits, pushing their limits, and seeing how they can really extract the maximum pace out of the race situation while playing tactically. We saw that move from Gabor heading into the hairpin, and that's really the domino that set everything in motion. They had that brief positioning advantage, but at the same time that opened the door for much greater exit from the Haas, and the rest was history.
Yeah, it really was what set everything up. Of course, Tope then being the sitting duck in all of that and having to defend as aggressively as possible. As here comes Gabor to the outside of Leo Lund, and as easy as you like, he now hits the front of this train. Of course, Gabor, a former console racer, and is a very, very strong driver in his own right. So for the Alpine driver, he's looking to now try and just break further and further away from Leo Lund, like we saw Leo Lund do just a few laps ago before the Alpine was able to bring him back into his clutches. But Gabor, super strong around Canada, was on console as well, so expect to see him do his best in this Grand Prix and stay at the front of this field. The Alpine driver doing well so far, takes the Fox back into the pit lane. And the question is here, Ben, how much longer can these medium tyre runners go, the likes of SD, Rapasa and Ruiten, before they have to pull the trigger and come into the pit lane?
I think they'll be able to carry it for a little bit longer at least. I want to get to at least the halfway point of the race, and then really they'll be able to eke out the tyres towards the end. You can see Rapasa's going for the outside run on JST here, so nice, elegant sweep. And as we watch on with this initial pack of 3, followed by what will soon become the rest of the field in due time, it will be a tough thing to watch, as I think we will soon see a sharp decline in the pace on the medium. They're not necessarily designed for carrying more than 50% of a race distance without some serious consequences. So it's going to be a bit of a quandary for the drivers to tee up with and handle. Things are still looking fine. They're still looking okay. And there's plenty left in the tank for the drivers on a personal level. But they want to get off those mediums before they start seeing that speed fall off. They're not at risk of blowout or anything like that, but they will start to see some drops in pace, arguably by the time you get to the 40-50% mark, you already want to be off them.
Yeah, you do. You really want to be off them quite early as Exafox has come into the pit lane to retire from the Grand Prix. But also with these medium runners, it's Luca Rapassa. All three of the medium runners actually now have 3-second time penalties as Gavel is able to get in front of Leo Lund, also able to get in front of Tope as the Williams driver just keeps falling further and further back. But crucially, with this whole medium runners at the front of the field, of course, this is now a two-stop Grand Prix. They're not going to be able to take those medium tyres enough to then make the softs last long enough for the end of this Grand Prix. And they're pretty much going to be a whole pit stop behind at this point. They really are just, I think, hanging this out for a safety car, to be honest, are this top three. They saw everybody else go on the opposite strategy and come into the pit lane quite early on. And it's really bit them when they needed it the most. And with the likes of Rapalsa and Rutan, their teammates, so one of them's going to have to stay out longer than the other. And if Gabor and Lund keep gaining at the rate that they are really going to be a pit stop behind. And it's going to cost them dearly. And it's going to be such a difficult comeback job through the field that they might not even be able to score any big points, say, in the top 5, because the field is somewhat split, especially with Diego Zorzo and Liam Stevens lineup. There goes Luca Rapassa and now Danny Van Ruyten to the outside now of JSD. But they really are just Hail Marying this for a safety car. That will be their saving grace. And really, for the V-Carbs as well, they are in probably the trickiest position throughout the field.
Yeah, I think they are stuck. I think they honestly are in the most trouble right now because it's a ticking time bomb of a race strategy. You are praying that the right circumstances land in your lap in order to get the payoff that they are begging for. But at the same time, let's look at this from another perspective. You still have 2 compound rule. You're still going to have to go onto the soft compound at some point during your race. Now, for a lot of these drivers here, they bin the softs early and gone on the mediums as fast as possible, or even use the VSC to negate some of the time. But when you have the rest of the field, and when you have some of the drivers who are further up in particular, running deep on these medium stints, they are really losing significant time, even as we get to the double digits with our next pack of 4 cars. They're still going to be running faster, even if that delta is less and less with every passing lap.
Yeah, they will still be far. It really is just a big conundrum for this top 3. What do they end up doing? As Leo Lund able to get back past Gabor with the DRS, and Justin Ertz and Keaton Lutt now going to go side by side into the World Champion chicane. Who's going to come out on top? It's going to be the Kick Sauber, who currently lies in 10th place, but Keaton Lutt with a brilliant run out of the chicane. That's been a superb drive out of turn 14. You can also see just behind him Leroy Brown, who's trying to make his recovery drive through the field from taking those softs quite early into the Grand Prix. He's down in 12th place and still trying to recover all that lost time. At the minute, it's a story of what could have been for Leroy Brown if he boxed with everybody else. But unfortunately, down now in 12th. He's got a lot of work on his hands. So we move back up through the field. Laurie Tulke is now starting to put Gabor under a little bit of pressure, and Gabor going a little, making a mistake out of turn 9. He got onto the grass on corner entry. This could give Tulke the opportunity he needs if he gets the drive out of the turn 11 hairpin. There's Leo Lund just in front. Of course, they'll both have the DRS on the Scarlet Red Ferrari, and Laurie Tulke with a massive moment out of turn 11. That's going to affect his run massively, and unfortunately, that's not going to give him the opportunity to attack Gabor, as there goes Gabor to the outside of Leo Lund. Tulke not going to be able to get close enough. Gabor once again moves to the front of this train. That gap now between the top 3 down to 5.9 seconds. They're not gaining as quickly as they once were, but still they are gaining ever so slowly. His top 8 10-second time penalty. He becomes our 4th retirement of the Grand Prix. Unfortunate for the Williams driver. He went for that gamble on the getting rid of those softs quite early on. It's just not worked into his favour, and the Williams driver struggled throughout this medium stint. It's now our 4th elimination from this Grand Prix.
Yeah, that does give a chance for those a little bit lower. Gottschalk, Marquardt, Bieda. A little bit more of a fighting chance to get into some points-paying spots, but it is still a narrow window of opportunity that they likely will not be able to exploit without some kind of external circumstance like a safety car. Now, JST, Van Ruyten, and of course Rapassa, they've been embroiled in a hotly contested back and forth for a good amount of time. However, the big issue right now is that all of this trading, all of these position swaps, are proving to be detrimental to their strategy. They're still got some good life left in the tyres, but the problem is now that with every passing attack, every passing trade of position, Lund, Zontos, Tulki, Stevens, Sprogis, and Zorzo even getting involved in this queue now, they're all drawing closer. 5.2 seconds and counting. You can see that split drop, and it really is going to soon be a case of it. JST, Rapasa, and Van Ruyten having to take their pit, and not only having to take their pit, as we see Liam Stevens get a 3-second time penalty, but lose out on those positions they fought so hard to keep.
Actually, I have a feeling they are going to take the mediums long enough for those soft tyres to work. So let me quickly just double check how long Leroy Brown was able to take those softs.
I think it was, I want to say 9 laps. Oh no, it was 10
laps.
But that's really stretching it. He was dropping significantly by that point.
Is. But crucially for these guys, they'll be on lighter fuel loads. The track will be a bit more rubbered in. So are they going to go for the ultimate Hail Mary and try a one-stop in this Grand Prix? I mean, they've all got 3-second time penalties, so that really doesn't help their cause at all if they do start to drop off the pace. They'll be on the softs, the quicker compound of the two. Yes, they do hit the cliff quite early, but if they're able to break away by enough, and everybody behind, the likes of Gabor, Lund, Tulki, all get into a massive scrap for those positions as they try to just hustle down those cars in front, we could see a pretty good one-stop happen for the likes of Rapasa, Esti, and Ruyten. Whatever of the V-Carbs is able to stay out longer is going to be the one on the back foot. And also look at this as well here, Ben. It is getting more cloudy as well. The track temperature will start to fall, and we'll certainly see those softs being able to be edged out just a little bit longer before they hit the cliff, maybe about another 2 laps before they start to really fade away. And this is a really ultimate strategy attempt from Rapasa, Ruyten, and also Esti. And if they're able to pull it off, full props to them, because this has been a stellar drive if it has.
It's going to be the wild card of all time, though. That is seriously going to be a massive gamble. Now, you are right. It is projected that within 15 minutes, there is a 64%, well, 64 zoo lane chance of dropping some downpour. So this is going to be a bit of a gamble right towards the end of the session. Not only that, but within 30 minutes, of course, we won't get there, but it was projected for a storm. So that could have been the case, but we'll have to wait and see as the probabilities, the predictive weather, the adaptive weather is going to be a potential shake-up in this whole order. But regardless, the field is starting to stretch itself a bit thinner here. We will soon see... I'm going to just give up talking. My words are completely gone. But we will soon see a bit of a squabble up and down the field. In fact, we're seeing one right now with Sprogis and Zorzo. But there will be a last-minute squabble as drivers are going to have to pit in and really take a bit of liberty with when they want to pit in too. Yeah, they certainly will. And of course, anything can happen in these changeable conditions if it does start to rain. Of course, it can happen with multiple pit stops as well, of course, as we saw Jenson Button do in 2011, where, I mean, it could all come down to the final lap. If it does start to get greasy down into turn 6, where someone maybe just goes that little bit wide, that could allow somebody through. And that will certainly be highlighted, especially if it works in JST's favour of Jenson Button in 2011, of course, with the record 6 pit stops with the race victory. But as you can see, the clouds starting to loom over the circuit more and more. Are we going to see those little droplets of rain? And is that actually, instead of the soft compounded tyres, what the likes of SD, Rapasa and Van Ruyten are holding out for? Maybe it was their plan all along. Hold out until the rain, if it does come. Here comes SD now to the outside of Luca Rapasa. This race is getting more and more interesting as it goes along. There's Lund getting past Gabor as he moves himself back to the front of that train. That gap is somewhat stabilised here, Ben.
over the past few laps, it has stayed around that 3.6, 3.5 second range. So, have those medium tyres of the likes of Rapasa and Esti maybe got past that graining stage, found a new lease of life? I say that, Leo Lund finds about 3.33, another 2/10 of a second on the Danny Van Ruyten in front. But are they starting to somewhat level out here, those medium compounded tyres? That age difference isn't affecting them too much, and over the past few laps, it stunted the drivers behind from gaining that progress. I just must curse these tyres like I did with Leroy Brown, because now they're under 3 seconds.
Yeah, I do think for as much as they have got past that initial graining and they're just focusing on keeping tyres at a good temp, they've done a very good job with that, even with the rears. They tend to heat up past 100 degrees on the cores, but still keeping a nice balance here. Now, I think there is going to be a bit of a middle ground that we've just seen where there will be a relative stability in the gaps, but just in the same way, I think we are now going to see that next stage where the lateral grip, the mechanical grip, really does start to fall off now. Even with some squabbling back and forth with the pack behind, I think that mechanical grip is going to be of concern, which means that time is of the essence to now get those next pit stops under the belt. I wonder if the other set, so behind the front three, could be extending this stint to the end, considering that they have all pitted from a set of softs and are really going to be stretching those mediums. I think it's dangerous territory, like we were saying at the start, but it is something that maybe those on the likes of 15, 14 laps might be weighing up.
It certainly could be. Maybe that's what Leroy Brown did as well. We just got that a little bit earlier. He can take the tyres another 10 laps. We've seen that from SD and Rapasta, so he certainly could stay out to the end of this Grand Prix, and that will give him about an 18, 19 second advantage over the rest of the field. So if I was Leroy Brown, I'm down in 11th place. Just go for that Hail Mary. Go for that long stop. As Riyad Sprogis with a big slide out of turn 12. That's really put him on the back foot behind Leroy Brown, actually. As we see further up, there's Leo Lund once again getting past Gabor. This train is starting to extend itself ever so slightly, all the way down to Riyad Sprogis. And there's another 15 seconds back to Baden Maliki's down in 12th place. But this gap now 2.3 seconds. They found about a second over that past lap. Have London Gabor on the likes of SD and Rapasa. And our championship leader. The consistency is starting to fade as these tyres get older. And he has picked up now another 3 second time penalty. I'll quickly run everybody through the penalty. So it's Rapasa on 6. You then got SD, Van Ruyten, Stevens, Sprogis, Gottschalk and Bieder on 3 seconds apiece. And then Diego Zorzo with that 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So that is how your penalties lie up with just 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And the clouds just looming larger. They're getting darker over the skies here of Montreal. But the question is, will that rain come soon enough as Liam Stevens and Diego Zorzo go side by side down the back straight?
And we will have them come to blows. It's a side-by-side across the order. You even have Zontos and Lund till very close to the end going side-by-side. Zorzo's right to the back of Torquay. We've got a very good Wall of Champion chicane, and it is going to end up backing out in the end, but the pressure is certainly there. Now, Zontos to Van Ruyten is only 2 seconds. In fact, you can see they're in visual line of sight now, so that is a big marker, and we'll now might even see Zontos, along with the others in the train, start to really push forward. Now they've got line of sight. This is a huge motivator for drivers, and it's a weird phenomenon that I've experienced and seen. Whoa!
It started to rain.
Oh, we do have a little bit of drops. We do have some. So track has dropped, ambient temperatures dropped, and the rain is, albeit lightly, starting to bead up on the cars. Marquard's onto medium, not medium, Inter.
Already, that they're going to overheat. That strategy is not going to work for Marquard, but he was so far behind, he probably was just going, you know what, we'll switch on to them, see what we're able to do. Maybe even be the guinea pig for JST in this. So, we could have a situation of guinea pigs in play, and here comes Danny Van Ruyten into the pit lane. He's going to come in for the intermediates. I'm sorry I cut into you there, Ben, when the rain started to fall, but it's just that it is oh so crucial especially for the likes of Rapasa and SD, that they need this rain to start to fall harder. They need it to be an absolute monsoon of rain and just absolutely downpour on this circuit. Oh, Rapasa left rear puncher. Rapasa struggling. The championship leader fades away in this Grand Prix, and the gamble to stay out for 27 laps in this race has bit Rapasa. And this circuit, I said it was vicious, and it has bit at its most deadliest. And it's your championship leader, Luca Rapasa, picking up a left rear tyre puncture. And I said this could be a key point in the championship. All it takes is one bad stroke of luck, and Rapasa now with that just hobbling that car through on 3 wheels. Unfortunately, that is going to be race over, and for JSD, it's troublesome times at the top of the field, because he knows what happened to Rapasa could happen to him at any given opportunity.
He knows his clock is ticking and he's taking no chances. There he go. Dives into the pit lane along with Lund and others. Zontos staying out for another go. But yeah, brutal end there. The delamination on the rear left tyre. That's all she wrote. You can see him crabbing across the field, just limping that car as quick as he can to the end of the circuit, even dipping onto the grass. That's still mighty quick, considering his car is completely out of shape, but that is going to leave a power vacuum, and that is going to leave an opportunity for Zontos to take lead, for Diego Zorzo to stay out as well, 21 laps on the medium, and chase from behind. Leroy Brown also there as well, but with the rain coming down, the big question is now whether it is enough rain to constitute the inter, or whether it was a misplay a bit too early.
I think this could just be the crossover point. Maybe staying at that lap extra could be the deciding factor. No, Van Roosen, he's struggling big time on those intermediates with that missing end plates. He's getting so much understeer and so much whitewash as he turns into the corner. He's still gaining an abundance of time on Richard Sprogis, so this has been an absolutely expert play from the likes of Esti, from Leo Lund. I mean, Esti had to come into the pit lane. He had no choice after seeing what happened to Luca Rapasa. Our championship leader's streak of podiums has come to an end, and his streak of race finishes has come to an end. So now on these green-walled intermediate sides, the DRS is still on. Who is going to come out on top? There's Leo Lund to the outside. Where's Gabor coming out in all of this? He's just exiting the pit lane now. He's exiting on stage left. And he's going to come out behind Keedan Lutt. It's been a real good undercut here from Leo Lund. We saw how strong it was with those original pit stops onto the medium compounded tyres from the softs. And Leo Lund is now in prime position to take the race victory here. But look at this. Look at the front of the field. Yes, the track is so treacherous. He's going to be losing time at every given opportunity. But Leroy Brown has decided to stay out. He has gone for that punt. He has gone for that last minute, boots it up the field moment. And he has really now trying to scrap for this first race victory. There's Leo Lund, Esti and Tulki now getting past Danny Van Ruyten with that missing end plate, is really struggling in that V-carb. And here we see now Tulki surely going to be able to get past Van Ruyten at the easiest of conveniences. And there we go, no DRS for the V-carb. Oh, and Leroy Brown comes into the pit lane as DRS is now disabled while they were using it down that back straight. So as Lund pulled off that overtake when he needed to the most, pulled off a really opportunistic move on Danny Van Ruyten, as here comes Larry Tulki for second place in this Grand Prix. Our top two from qualifying have not been near each other really ever since the pit stops. They're back at the late stages of the Grand Prix in the top two once more. And could we see Larry Tulki take his first race victory of the season? Of course, he's only scored 4 points in those opening 3 rounds, and Tulki looking to absolutely increase his point score by a huge amount, as Leo Lund, of course, who we saw win in Baku, the Super Swede, he loves these street circuits. Is he got to try and take another race victory this season? But he's got a lot of work to do, because Larry Tulki is not going to take this one lying down.
Now, I do feel a little bit bad for Leroy Brown as well. He took a punt at that very deep initial soft stint, then tried to balance it out with the medium and potentially negate an entire stop. Unfortunately, the heavens had other plans. The heavens opened and the rain came pouring down. Initially was considering trying to ride it out, but I think as soon as he saw that DRS disabled warning, or he felt under his wheels how much he was wheel spinning, particularly coming out of the hairpin on the prior lap to his pit stop, I think that was all the evidence he needed. That was curtains for him there. But lap 32 now, Lund leads, Torquay closely chasing behind. JST is going to be in your third spot, closely defending from Danny Van Ruyten. But it really is a two-horse race, because remember those penalties. Remember that is going to be a key benefactor. JST with 6 seconds, Van Ruyten with 3. So all Van Ruyten needs to do is stay behind, and he's got podium on penalties alone, if not for some of the other field members behind. So Caden Luke will actually, I think, be the one who takes the most out of this, and Gabor will get some comeuppance into 4th at this rate.
Yeah, he certainly will. It's all, as I said earlier in that pre-race, it's all going to be about the track limits, and if you get one, could see you out of contention. As there's Leroy Brown to the inside of Relad Sprogis, who's missing an end plate, actually is the Red Bull driver. Here comes Leroy Brown again. I think Sprogis got an illegal overtake for being off the circuit. And there's actually Gabor battling with Liam Stevens. Liam, of course, was behind Gabor. Gabor was fighting Keaton Lutt for that podium place, and now here comes Liam Stevens to maybe derail that challenge for the podium. There he goes on the outside line with the slipstream, able to move himself up into 6th place. Larry Tulkey now all over the back of Leo Lund as we head into the turns 1 and 2 chicane once more. Not able to get that move done, but it really is a two-horse race out in front. The rain getting heavier. Drivers really need to adapt to this grip quite quickly. And for Leo Lund here, Ben, it really is just try adapt as fast as you can. And if you're able to do that, he is certainly gonna be able to take this race victory. But of course, with Tulkey still racing on behind, of course, both these drivers are from the Nordic countries. They're gonna be good in these conditions. So is Larry Tulkey going to be able to come out on top. He's in that slipstream. He's going to be waiting to the final lap into the World Champion chicane, surely, if he wants to get this move done for the race victory.
I think it really has been a lot of strategic calls, a lot of gambles. Marquardt is going to be our 6th retiree in the session, and that's going to make just 14 finishes here in tonight's race. But I think Lund needs to just hold his nerve. He hasn't got any DRS overtakes to worry about, but he also knows that any major mistakes are going to be severely beneficial to Larry Tulkey. So he just needs to hold his nerve, not get too aggressive with some of his lines and some of his defensive moves. And then I'm sure it will be fine, unless Tulkey goes for something drastic, which he might do, considering it is the penultimate lap right now, and things could very quickly heat up. Not too dissimilar to some of the fights we've seen in the mid-pack. Things like Sprogis chasing constantly against Leroy Brown. Things like Liam Stevens and Gabor briefly having an exchange together. And a little bit of four-wheel sliding that is occurring up and down the circuit as the rain continues to pour and only increases in severity, really. We are fully in heavy rain conditions. We transitioned from light rain and light shower to now full heavy rain, and you can see just how much mist is being kicked up as those inter tires displace hundreds of litres of water per lap.
Yeah, it really does. You just see how treacherous these conditions are. Even on those intermediates, they're still struggling to find any sort of grip out there. But here we are then, going down the back straight for the penultimate time in this Grand Prix. It is down between two drivers, our top two in qualifying. Tulkey was at the midpoint in this race, not really in discussion for this race victory. It was looking like it was shaping up to be a heavyweight blow contest between Gabor and Leo Lund, but that later pit stop, for Gabor, took him out of contention and moved the Haas driver straight into the prime position for this fight for this race victory. We're here on the final lap of a chaotic Canadian Grand Prix. Who will come out on top? Will the Super Swede return to the top after a dominant display in Baku here in Canada? He really has had to work for it. Or will it be Larry Tulkey? 4 points this season, and what a way to kickstart your championship if he's going to be able to win here in Canada. Round 4 of the season. We're now getting into the crunch time. This final lap, Tulkey pushing Leo Lund through the turns 8 and 9 chicane. They're both just trying to save as much battery as they can. Of course, the grip ever changing lap by lap. Is Talkie going to go for the move into turn 11? It'll be a brilliant place to go for a lunge, but no, he's going for the switcheroo. He's getting the run. He's gone for a wider entrance to the corner to get a faster run. He's had a slide out of the corner. This could pay dividends to his challenge, but he's got the slipstream. He's got the battery. He's surely going to look for it. Talkie cannot back out of this one. He's going to look to the outside line. Lund places his car absolutely perfectly, but slides through the chicane. It's going to be surely a photo finish. Talkie with a slide as well. It's going to be the Super Swede. Back on top, Leo Lund slashes that gap to Rapasa right down to minimal points, and it's Super Swede back on top here in Canada. He loves these street circuits. Does the Ferrari man. 700ths of a second separating London Talkie, but Leo will be absolutely loving that. The contrast from the domination in Baku to the pressure of Canada. Leo Lund comes out on top once again, and Luca Rapasa, you're going to have to start looking in your rearview mirrors as Leo Lund is making a challenge for that title.
That is a near perfect, in fact, no, it is a perfect result here for Leo Lund. You've got his main rival being well and truly out of contention. You've got himself at the top of the order, maximum points available, and now that gap has been completely slashed. Not to mention some of the other competitors who have managed to converge with some good points finishes on that board. So we'll see exactly how that fits with the championship later on, as we do have... Oh, I think that's a bit of a hiccup on the timing board there. Scott Shock is potentially DNF'd there. I think is meant to be stacked up in P13, but what a round. Great race control from everyone at the top, but especially Lund there. He had a handle on it. He jumped the perfect times for the perfect stops, and that's all she wrote.
It certainly was. It was just a brilliant drive there from Leo Lund. Did everything perfectly. Couldn't ask for more. And come out on top. A deserved winner from this evening's Grand Prix. And as your results do lie from the Canadian Grand Prix, as you can see, we've gone back to sunny conditions in the background. But it's Leo Lund, the Super Swede, after domination in Baku. He wins here again in Canada. The man loves his street tracks. And this certainly is going to be one he will cherish forever. Laurie Talkie in second, a brilliant way to kick off a few more points onto his tally. He's gone from 4 all the way up to 22. Keaton Lutt in third. Brilliant drive from him from 11th to get onto the podium. Gabor 4th. Danny Van Ruyten in 5th. Liam Stevens 6th. JSD with that penalty 7th. Leroy Brown was able to recover to 8th. Richard Sprugis in 9th. And Zorzo rounds out your top 10. Justin Hertz finishes in 11th. Balin Alikis in 12th. Zalan Bida in 13th. Gottschalk is 14th. Joel Marquardt, Luca Rapasa, top 8. Fox, Tomasin and Leo Toe, all your retirements. And crucial championship, Luca Rapasa with that DNF. That now leaves Leo Lund 8 points behind, heading into the next round of the championship, into round 5.
Yep, and hopefully we get a chance to get some insight from our drivers and see their perspectives, exactly how that went down. I know that there's going to be some very impassioned drivers, as there always is after a race round, but it's going to be a big one there. We can see comments already coming in from Luca Rapasa's lap. He was about to pit that lap, but unfortunately the puncture got to him before the pit lane did. So we will hopefully get a chance to catch up with the other drivers, but I think it's only fair, following such a great performance and great streak, we talk to the man himself and one of the main championship pro tags who's just got a major leg up in this fight. Let's grab him in. It is going to be Leo Lund, although that being said, it's not letting me drag him.
Let me try. There we go. But he's definitely... Yeah, there we go. Leo Lund.
Oh, hello. I muted myself, sorry.
Oh, you're quite quiet, I will say, mate. We're a little bit quiet here. Maxed you out as much as I can. Can you hear us properly?
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay, that's much better. Well, Leo, what a race. Honestly, this was your weekend. Qualifying, smashed it. Race, Had great control, great variety as well. So you're 6 laps on the softs and then on the mediums until you went for a last second stint on the inters. But tell me, what were your expectations for this race and how are you feeling about it coming out on top?
I mean, of course, my expectations are quite high. But for Canada, it was, yeah, I was expecting a win actually. The pace is there, but the interpace in the end, it was not very good. The setup I had was pretty, it was not that good, but I could still drive it, so. But yeah, I'm really happy with P1 and Luke at DNF, so I gain a lot of points.
Yeah, I'd say great performance out there. I mean, did you come into this weekend with a particular strategy in mind? Or given that you can't really use the hard compounds, you'd had to change things up and you were sort of more taking a flexible approach?
I was just coming to this race like a normal race. I was just gonna gain more points on Luca, just win. So that was my strategy.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. It's to the point, and of course it serves you well into the championship, which I'm assuming you are going to be fighting for that championship throughout this season, am I right?
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to it either way. Any questions from you, Max, at all?
Yes, one from me actually, Leo. Of course, yes, at the minute, it seems you absolutely love your straight tracks. I mean, you win in Baku with absolute domination. You win here. It was a bit more under pressure, but still pole and the race victory again. What is it about the street circuits that you love? Is it just the fact you're naturally good at them, or does your driving style just somewhat play into the favour of these circuits where it's a little bit more tricky to get the lines right?
I don't know why I'm so good on street tracks, but I don't know actually. Maybe how tight it is to the walls or something. I don't know.
Just able to find the limit of the car a bit better than the others.
Yeah, we say so.
But yeah, anyway, congratulations on that race victory. And actually, one more. How difficult was that final lap with Talkie behind? Of course, without the DRS, it made it a bit easier to defend on that final lap. But out of turn 11, you saw him jink to that left-hand side. I saw you come over ever so slightly. Was that just to say, yeah, you're not going to be able to get to this left-hand side, get through, and I've got the run into the chicane in front of you?
Larry, he was quite fast in the inter conditions, but my strategy was I knew he was fast in the corner, so I just took better exits, and yeah, in the last lap there I closed the door a little bit on him, so he could not go around outside.
Well, congratulations, a brilliant drive from yourself. That now brings you 8 points between you and Luca Rapassa, so the fight is certainly on. And Ben, I don't know if you got any more questions, but from me, Leo, good luck for next week, and hopefully you're back in the comms box again.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, there you go. That's all questions from me as well. And that is Leo Lund. And with that, we have to say goodbye. I don't think we're going to see any more of the drivers joining us in the interview box. So we've only seen Leo Lund, and we will, of course, look forward to future rounds. So remember, we don't know. We can't tell you. Oh, wait, saying that, I think we do have Larry Talkie waiting in the wing. Should we grab him in?
Yes, let's grab Larry in.
Last minute entry here. So we're back on the interview screen. Larry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Amazing. Well, I'd say great weekend. Really put the hammer down. Really putting the pressure on towards the end. Both in quali with that last minute dive and in the race as well. So describe the race from your perspective.
I mean, I was trying to be so cautious to not take penalties because many people took penalties in there, and I was just trying to be clean and not crash in the Canada. So yeah.
Keep it clean, keep it quick. Did you come in? I'll ask the same question Did you come in with a particular strategy, or was this more of a flexible arrangement, especially towards the end?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that the rain is going to like rain because it's so much changes in this game, but I knew it already that I'm gonna start on softs because they have so much like tire wear in one lap, so it's better to take worst tires out of the first. So yeah.
Yeah, well, so I think the thing that did it for me is the sudden switch to rain. Now, we had a great initial stint, of course, early run on the softs, then jumping onto the mediums. But when the rain started to come down, what was going through your mind?
I was hoping that the rain would go higher, like more rain, so doesn't matter to me if it rains or the track is dry, so yeah. It was good it rained because I gained a bit time in there as well, and position in the pit lane, so yeah.
Yeah, well, so it ended up playing out very well for you. You put on some pressure right to the very end of that little fight with Leo Lund. And I'm seriously impressed by what we saw out on track there. So where does that leave your expectations in terms of the championship? It was a great result out there, points under your belt. Is this potentially the start of a title charge?
Yeah, I don't know. We need to see. We need to focus on other races as well, on not only this one. Oh yeah.
Well, regardless of how it plays out, it was great to have you in the commentary box, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you bring. Max, any questions from you?
Yeah, one from me, Larry. That final lap where you were just so close to the back of Leo. Of course, you went for that a bit more of a wider entry, a bit more of a swooping corner into turn 11, the hairpin. Was you, once you got that slide on the exit, was you a bit like, oh, I'm not going to get this one? Or were you still pushing forward and thinking, if I get the run out the chicane, I could get this one in the back?
Yeah, I knew that when I did that, so like the slide on the exit, so I would not get it, and it's very hard to overtake on rain because you know it's harder to make a move. And yeah, I knew it already that I cannot pass, so yeah, I was just trying to keep my position. So yeah.
Yeah, it is super difficult to get those moves done. And yeah, especially something like that, it really just so unfortunate to have that slide at that certain moment to unfortunately derail that challenge for the race victory. But still, a second place, still something to be happy about. And yeah, hopefully we see you in the comms box next week. Brilliant drive here today from you, Laurie, and hopefully, yeah, we see you for the rest of the season getting more podiums.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully we will see if I am in podium or not in the next races.
Well, looking forward to it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Larry Talkie. So we'll now be wrapping up formally. And with that, it is going to be the next mystery round. So join us same time next week as we unveil live to you, same time as we find out in the commentary box about what race is going to go down. We've already knocked out a few key rounds. So we've knocked out Monaco, we've just knocked out Canada, we have knocked out Mexico and Baku as well. So that leaves the pool shrinking and the races potentially spicing up. But from both of us in the commentary box, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, folks. Take care and goodbye.